you have to be in it for the long haul, and I think you have to find your validation from different places. We've had the big month, we've had the big launch, we've brought in 1,000 people at one time. Like, that's great, but we can't keep flying high forever.
What if you could build a business in the modern world as big or as small as you want without having to compromise the things that were the most important to you in the very beginning? This is the Wealthy Consultant Talks podcast with Taylor Welch and Mike Walker, as they share with you today their learning lessons from stories in their experiences over the past 10 to 15 years and share with you right here, right now. Let's get into it.
What is going on, my friends? Mike Walker here. Another episode of the Wealthy Consultant Podcast. I have an amazing guest to share her story with you today, and I know you're going to extract some insights. We were just jamming a little bit before, we hopped on to the recording here, and boy, she and I share some common insights into what it means to run and have a successful business. And so let's get right into it. Ms. Sarah Mueller, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Mike, it's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's start off with some of the basics. Let's give some people some context here. Introduce yourself. Where are you from? What's your background as an entrepreneur? And then tell us a little bit about your business too. It's really cool. And I want people to know about what you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, my name is Sarah Mueller. I am the founder of the Decluttering Club. I live in Pennsylvania. I'm a single mom to 4 boys. They are ages 13 up through 24. And we help women, mainly women, learn how to let go and live with less stuff and more life.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, what got you into all that too?
Well, so I've been running businesses since the year 2000, really. I have been an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, right? And so this is my 3rd business. Really, it started out because I like to give advice. I like to share what's worked for me. And, I had like a little blog way back in the day, and I was just writing about all kinds of different things. And I started writing about getting organized and decluttering, and it struck a nerve with the people who were reading my work. And that was the thing that took off. And, you can share these kinds of things with your friends, right? That's what I was trying to do, but they were, not necessarily interested, but the people online that I was talking to, they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is the missing link. Like, this is incredible." And so that's kind of how we got us started on the topic of decluttering and organizing, was just that like people needed it. This is what they were asking for from me. And so that's how we decided to focus there. And so, but in terms of like the format of the business, right? We have a membership, we run large groups. We're just all about community. And I realized that I've been organizing groups and leading community forever, right? So like back before I had my business, I was leading groups of homeschool moms. Right. And so that I was organizing that. And before that,
Okay.
German speaking moms, we were organizing them. And so that has just all contributed towards how we run our groups today, because I've been thinking about this for a long time. So that is really my jam.
Love that. Love that. Interesting. Yeah. And guys, just for those that are listening, when she says large groups, she means large groups. I've seen those challenges that you've been running, Sarah, and oh my God, like you guys do some serious volume. Talk a little bit about these challenges, because I remember the first time I got introduced to you and your business, I was so impressed by the scale at which you run these things. So let's talk about these challenges. I know there's a lot of people out there that understand conceptually the idea of running, hosting a challenge. Maybe they could learn some insights from you on that.
Yeah. So, our challenges at the moment, they're ranging from 15,000 people up to, I think the biggest one we've done is like 36,000 people. And we're looking for more, because It's just like what we teach is so applicable to so many people. So that is why we go for volume. It's not like a vanity thing. It's not like, it's because this message is so important. But yeah, we just love the groups. It's just so much fun to be working together, having a Facebook Live where there's 1,000 people watching Facebook Live. Like, that is amazing. I love it. And so that is what we go for. I guess it's a different thing, right? To manage a group of 50,000 people. Actually, we had a group of 70,000 people at one point. And that was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That is
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, you're talking about a stadium of people, Sarah. That is a big group by anyone's metrics. That is a very large group to be hosting
It
online.
was, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's a lot of fun,
Wow. Amazing. So during these challenges, talk about like the format of these challenges a little bit. I'm just intrigued by, we don't have to go too deep in the weeds, but just how do those things run? Are they multiple days or how's it all work?
Yeah, we actually have one going on right this week. So what we do is we have registration so people can sign up, and sometimes it's free, sometimes it's a low ticket, $9, something like that, to join the challenge. And then we have a funnel on the back end of that to liquidate the ad spend. And then we bring them into Facebook group, right? So it's all done in community, typically on Facebook and also on Zoom, right? And so we'll have a lesson, like the way the format works is we'll have a recorded lesson in the morning, short and sweet, 10 minutes, 6 minutes, right? And then here's your task for the day. I think that's what I'm really good at, is breaking complicated ideas down into bite-sized pieces so that people can take action, right? I mean, I think the world is so overwhelming these days, right? Whether it's like your messy house or it's running a business, right? Like there's just information overload. And so it's our job as entrepreneurs to help people make sense of it and help them take action. And so for me, that means breaking things down into bite-sized steps. So I'll get the video in the morning, and then we'll have a Facebook Live in the afternoon where we have more training, we have Q&A, and we kind of like enjoy together. And then they're sharing their photos, they're sharing their wins in the Facebook group, they're asking questions, they're having a great time. And we're just teaching them this is what it's like to be in our community. And then the back end of that, we sell them into our membership.
Got it. And then in this membership, is it just a continuation of those types of skills and things that they've learned, or how is it that how do you foster that retention inside of your membership?
Yeah, it's a lot of the same things, but on an ongoing basis, right? So we'll teach them some basic things in the challenge, but it's only like between 3 and 5 days, right? So obviously you're going to need more if you want to keep going, and there's just way more to learn. So we have 2 levels of membership right now. And one level, we have one training a month where we just go deep on one topic. Like this month, we're going to be talking about how to create the bedroom and bathroom, like the perfect bedroom and bathroom setup, right? So it's organized, it's decluttered, it's clean, it's just like calming and peaceful. And, it really supports our mission of less stuff and more life. So we're just going to go all in on that. And people will be working on that all month, sharing their wins, asking questions, right? And then in our second level of membership, we have a lot more support, a lot more accountability. We have they're kind of basically like co-working calls. We call them miracle calls because it's a miracle what you can do when you're working together with other people, even
Wow, I love that.
home. So, there's just, once you start talking about getting organized, there's just a million directions you can go. Like literally.
Oh, I can imagine.
Organized.
No doubt. And does this expand beyond the home? Like, are you guys talking about the workplace and things like that, or does it tend to stay closer to home?
Not necessarily like workplace kinds of things, although all the ideas really could be applied to the workplace. We do talk about time management. We talk about money.
Sure.
We talk about like personal boundaries. So we get into a lot of that. Not necessarily like work, like office specific.
Well, I know it's, you and I work together now for, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 or so inside of the chamber. And, which is, for those that aren't aware, our highest level of consultancy. And, we've seen this trajectory that your business has taken. And, something that, you and I were touching on before we hopped on live was the concept that sometimes success can actually feel boring. And so that can throw people for a loop, especially in the earlier stages of the entrepreneurial journey. Everything is fresh, it's new. You're kind of lean and scrappy, and everything's happening really fast. And there's just a lot of excitement and adrenaline, I think is the word you use, which I think is a perfect association there. But over time, like your business now is maturing. Like you have multiple team, you have layers of team, you have SOPs in place. You've run your processes through multiple cycles now. You've kind of been there, done that in your business. And let's just kind of talk about like some of the challenges, both, obviously tactical, but also just the emotional or the psychological components of kind of just running a business now. You know, the newness is worn off, right? So what comes to mind for you when we talk about that kind of that side of the business evolution?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's just like here we are, we're like 5, 6 years in, and it's like, okay, we've done this before, right? It was super fun the first time, the second time, maybe the third or fourth time, right? That we had, let's say we had a big launch or
Mm,
we got a lot of people in, right? So fun. Right. I mean, I really live for hearing the people tell me, what worked and what went well. Right. But we still got to deliver, right? There's so much in the background, like kind of like backstage that we are doing to make this work for all of our members. There's just so much to do. And that is
sure.
not necessarily fun, to send out that Friday email every week. Right? It's like, okay, here we are again,
Mm,
right? Like it's time to make the donuts, right? It is. You have to be in it for the long haul, and you have to. I think you have to find your validation from different places, right? Because again, like we've had the big month, we've had the big launch, we've brought in 1,000 people at one time. Like that's great. And that's amazing, but we can't keep flying high forever. Like you can't sustain that. You can't
right.
keep grinding and pushing for forever. So you have to figure out other ways to exist and to still enjoy yourself and to still be willing to do like what needs to be done. It's not necessarily
Mm.
a no brainer.
No, it totally makes sense. What's kind of comes to mind for me when you say those things is the imperative nature of having, a clearly defined mission, those core values, things that kind of anchor the company and the culture within your team, right? Like, why are we here? What are we doing? It's not just about making money, or like, you said, it's not just about signing up another 1,000 customers. These are all good things, but that's not why we're on this planet, right? So
Yeah.
making your purpose missional, I think is key to longevity in business.
Yeah.
What excites you these days? Like, what is it that gets you fired up in the morning to want to, roll out another multi-thousand person event?
Oh gosh. I think for me it is really hearing from the people. So, we have now set things up so that we do have the support and we do have the team in place so that I get to focus on, like the one thing that only I can do. I can focus on
Mm,
on the coaching, on the delivery, like that kind of stuff. So I really love that. You talk about core values, they're so important to us. So like one of our core values is meticulous organization, right? And like I love when I can look at our project plan. I know exactly where things are, and it's all humming, right? We've got this machine going on and it's just humming. Like I love that. That is super fun for me. And thank
hmm.
goodness we have people who love to make that happen. And then I get to I get to show up here, talk to you. I get to talk to our members, things like that. So I think that is really exciting to me. And I think that's kind of why we're good at what we do, because I do want to be organized, right? Like that is an intrinsic thing for me. I can't function. Things are not organized. Like I just, well, you
Right.
know, I can't handle it. So,
No, I get it.
so that works out well.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And with your team, I know having worked with you for a while now, that's been a process too, as it is for every single person, finding the right team members and all that. So how do you keep your team on point and motivated? Are you using, quarterly planning sessions, or what is it that you do just from a high level to keep everybody on your team going in the same path, knowing that some of them, I'm sure by now, have kind of, like we were saying earlier, have seen this thing happen before. So
Mm-hmm.
of course they just want to get paid and all those things too, but surely to keep everybody on track and motivated takes more than a paycheck. So what do you do to keep your team,
Yeah.
going all in the same direction like that?
I think one of the things I've learned from you, really, Mike, is that you need to understand each person, right? And I'm working on that. So I'm not going to say that I'm amazing at it, but I'm trying to understand like what makes this person tick. Like does this person, need words of affirmation, or I need to check in with this person because they're more social. This other person not so much. Like they're good if I don't check in with them. So I think for us that's been really really important. Just building that connection internally, right? Like running the team the
Hmm.
way we run the groups, right? And feeding into them. as much as possible, because really team is my greatest asset, 100%. Right, like this is the investment
Yes.
that that I'm making in the business, is to cultivate the relationships and the people, and and build up the roles. So that's what I'm trying to do. We just had our first on-site retreat, and it was so much fun. It was just amazing. We got so much done. We bonded. We had a great time, and I really got to tell them that I appreciate them.
Mhm.
So that was incredibly meaningful. But just really like figuring out how to connect with each person on my team is pretty important.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that we see a lot inside Chamber too, is as, businesses evolve and mature, they're reaching new levels of, revenue and whatnot. And therefore the necessity of team really starts to come in the equation. And one of the most challenging elements of that evolutionary pathway is going from the solopreneur mindset, or I think that's probably the best way to say it, solopreneur, but maybe having, one or two team or whatever, a VA and things like that, but then making the shift into running an actual team, a multi-department, multi-silo team where you have different leadership, and you're no longer working with your hands, you're working through people and having to trust people and communicate properly. I mean, I say it all the time, like one of the biggest problems about communication is that people think it's even happened at all.
Yeah.
Just because we're talking doesn't mean that we're communicating. They're very different things, and so conveying those values and conveying, keeping everybody motivated, like we were just talking about, it's very challenging. And for those people, and I'll speak just purely transparency for everybody listening. Like I've run multiple businesses over the last 20 plus years. A lot of them, not all of them, but many of them have been where it's just been me and maybe a small core team. Just because that's by default kind of been my mode. But the biggest things I've ever done, the most money I've ever made, were always with a larger team, a larger, organization and whatnot. And it just takes a whole different type of mindset to run something, to run an organization versus just running a lean and scrappy team, And so when it comes to success and keeping that engine going, it's not always easy, to keep everybody on the same path for long enough to experience that momentum.
Yeah.
That is required to get the lift.
Yeah, that's so true, right? Because like what your goals are and what my goals are, they're going to be different. Like my team doesn't necessarily have the same priorities, right? And of course they don't, because if they did, they would be running their own business. So I think it's kind of easy to forget, and my team is incredible. Like they are so on board with everything, but also they're not me. So I try to remember that, and again, like you said, communication is so important. And so hard. Like we've learned so many lessons.
Yep.
In terms of like how do we communicate? Like how do we actually get this message across? How do we like transfer ownership of something from me, solopreneur, to okay, now this can be your job, and you're going to make sure it happens. That was not intuitive for me.
Yeah, same. I know it was definitely. I think it's just a challenge for everybody. I don't know. At least I can't think off the top of my head of anybody who's ever told me, yeah, no, that just felt real natural. It's like, no, it took some time to figure out, how do I get people motivated to want to do what I need them to do, and yet still have it to feel like they're taking ownership of it and this their ideas. And it's certainly one of the most difficult elements of the business for sure. Yeah. One of the things that I always like to highlight for people too is the concept that you said this perfectly, Sarah, and that is that, what you view as success or what you view as the goals may not be shared by that person. And so one of the things I like to remind our clients to do, it's an interesting exercise. Everybody listening should try this. Go to each of the leadership on your team. Actually, you could do this with anybody on your team. It doesn't even have to just be the leaders, but go to people on your team individually. So not in a group setting, but individually, and just ask them, what does success look like for you in your role here? And then just zip your mouth and just listen and watch what comes back. It's fascinating. It's a really fascinating exercise as the founder, as the CEO, to hear from their mouth what they think success is in their role, in their position, with their responsibilities. And more often than not, it will be somewhat similar to what you think, because obviously they're in that job that you hired them for a role. So they probably understand some of the basics, but what they say success looks like or what good looks like on a daily basis can sometimes be extremely different from what you would think they should be doing. And so again, going back to what I said earlier about communication not always actually happening, it's very important especially as visionary entrepreneurs, we have this tendency we see it in our head, right? Like it's all there, the big dream, the vision, we know where we're going. And yet that's in our heads. That's not in their head. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be really careful of assuming that they know what good looks like. And so just making sure that people are very, very clear about, just like what, having a shared vision for what good looks like, I think is really critical and something that a lot of people, as basic as that may seem, I think that's why a lot of people miss it, is because it seems so, just basic. But
I think that's such a great.
I'm telling you guys, try it. It's an interesting test.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, try it. It's a very interesting test.
Yeah, because you're right.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
You have explained yourself. You may think you've conveyed, but like have you checked in with them? Because they may not have, they can't read your mind. I think this is a lesson I'm learning over and over again. Nobody can read my mind, and I'm so surprised by this. But we have to.
I know, how is this not possible? How are you not reading my mind? Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's definitely an interesting process. It's something easy to do, but it's extremely rewarding. Awesome. Well, this has been great, Sarah. Thank you for sharing your story. Is there any thoughts? Here's one of my favorite things to ask. You've obviously, you, like you said, you've been in business for 6 years. You've kind of gone through the motions now multiple times. You've seen the iterations of your business model and all the new goals that you've been hitting and levels and whatnot. Looking back now, what would you tell yourself just starting out? If you could go back in time to when Sarah was just getting her feet wet with the business, is there anything that you would go and say, man, like, Sarah, listen to me. You gotta do this, or you shouldn't do that, or just anything that comes to mind?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question, isn't it? Yeah, I think it kind of goes to the whole thing that you Taylor, like Wealthy Consultants, all about is like your future self, right? And I think so. I am my future self right now, right, for my past self, and I think I realized that all of the ideas I had 6 years ago, like we're doing them, right, and they've been refined, they are obviously like polished up now. And I could have never imagined like back then what it's going to look like, but they were there, right? Like, so I think this is a lesson I keep learning is just trust yourself, like do the things that are like, pay attention to what is important, right? Because other people don't understand why it's important. But if the more that I trust myself, the better our results are. And the more I can explain to other people, like why, this little detail that we have to do it this way, the better, because then it just brings my whole vision to life. So I think getting comfortable with that and being willing to explain that and not doubt myself, that's been absolutely like critical for me. And if I'd done more of that, then I'd probably be further ahead. But this is where we are. So this is the process.
Well, you've come very far, and we won't talk about money and stuff necessarily, but you guys are doing great. You are absolutely crushing it. I'm just so impressed by everything that you've created, the empire, the decluttering empire, and excited to see what brings you, to at the end of this year and into the next. So thank you for spending your time with me this morning. So excited to feature your story. And for those that want to learn more about what Sarah does, we'll include a link to her business below this video, around wherever you're seeing it. So we'll make sure that gets there. And Sarah, again, thank you. And it's a pleasure to work with you inside of Chamber, and I look forward to continuing to work with you and see you reach even bigger and better levels.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, stay tuned for another episode of the Wealthy Consultant Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Like, share, subscribe, all those good things, and we'll see you on another episode.